Alright. I got it. Hi. Um, we're a couple minutes late, but it's whatever. It's fine. I have done a lot of setup for this stream. Mainly because I'm just still getting back into everything. But the big thing is that we should be good on Twitch now. People should be able to actually, like, watch the stream on Twitch. I figured out the issue. The issue was that I didn't have the, like, bit rate limited. Because I had, like, a bit rate of, like, 5,000 or whatever, or, like, 10,000 or whatever. You know, really good, but also, Twitch has a limit of, like, 6,000 around there. So, I have, like, a little test thing on the side to make sure that I'm actually being seen. Yeah. So, gosh, my bed's a bit of a mess. Oh, and I left the door open. It doesn't really matter, but it just feels weird to leave it open there. Alright. Just wanted to see, it makes the room seem much more something. I don't know. I'm not gonna take up too much time. We're just gonna get into this. So I guess I'll do a little bit of an intro. Hello YouTube. Today we're going to be reacting to Prison in Plastic. It is a Epithet erased, like, audiobook kind of thing. Like, the first 6 chapters are free on YouTube, so I just wanted to look into that. Not really what we usually react to, but I like books, so sure, let's check out an audiobook. I don't really listen to audiobooks now that I think about it. I mainly like to just sit down and actually read something. I don't really have a lot of time to do that, but I like to try. Oh, hello, Melody. Welcome to the stream. So we're gonna check that out. I'll just I'll bring it up here. I have the video, but I don't know if there's gonna be many visuals to, like, actually look at. It is what it is. Let me just turn off that background music. Prison in Plastic is so good. It sounds good. Like, from the little bit that I know of it, it seems interesting. All right, let's watch it, I guess. Can't stay for the whole shoot. Well, I'm glad to have you for as long as you're here, Melody.
This is a free sample of the audiobook for Epithet Erased,
There you go.
Prison of Plastic, containing the first 6 out of 17.
That's a really cool cover, by the way. Is that Godzilla?
Chapters. A physical copy of the book can be purchased on mascotbooks.com
Ooh.
or ordered from any major retailer. The audiobook is available exclusively on Sound Booth Theater, and for a limited time, you can get a physical
What the? Quality just dropped.
version of the audiobook on one of these nifty little cassette drives.
Wait, that's actually so cool. Well, there you go. If you're watching this and you are interested, support them. Maybe we'll get more Epithet Erased.
For more information, check out the description below or visit epithetaerasedonline.com.
There you go. All right. It seems cool. We get some music too. That's snazzy.
Epithets. In this world, a lucky few are born with special powers based off of
All
a
right.
single word. This word is linked to their very soul, and no two people have the same one. By tapping into the word, Epithet users, the inscribed, can do amazing things that ordinary people, Mundies, could only dream of. For instance, if a person had the epithet beach, then they might have the power to control the tides or summon sandcastles. Someone with the epithet sugar may be able to cook better than the average person. And the epithet recherche could force a person to open a dictionary and look up what recherche means.
All right, getting a little bit of an intro into what epithet. I think this is the most, like, solid description we got of epithets, except for in, like, episode 1, where Oh my gosh, I forgot her name. The person with like the fragile epithet. Isn't it May? Uh, when she describes it. All right, epithet's the very soul. So the soul exists. Good to know.
Of course, because a person's epithet can be any random word, inscribed power sets are often a little, well, dumb. In one instance, literally.
Oh.
The story
Wait.
so far.
You think of
1
Mara.
week ago.
Thank you. I forgot everybody's name.
A young girl named Molly Blindef was left behind during a field trip and accidentally locked inside of a museum. By sheer coincidence, not just
By the way, I stand by the fact that Molly's epithet is really good. It's called dumb, and she thinks it's dumb, but I think it's really good.
one, but two groups of dangerous thieves infiltrated the museum on that same night. Poor Molly found herself caught in their battle over a magical artifact that could take a person's power away. And she was their target. She allied herself with the leader of one of the two groups, a dorky young man by the name of Giovanni, and they managed to survive the night by working together.
I would say, what's the odds that two criminal, like, separate criminals try to steal this amulet? But considering how valuable it is, you know, the ability to steal epithets, I'd say it's weirder that more people weren't there, really.
Giovanni's group made off with the amulet, they all evaded the police, and Molly gained a much-needed boost in confidence, as well as a role model in her scrappy new mentor. But Molly's
Love that
problems
for
at
her.
home are far from over.
Prologue. The Neo Trio.
Okay. I'm guessing we're going to be meeting Molly's two friends that we saw at the end of, like, the previous episode. We got a little glimpse at them.
Sweet Jazz City.
I'm sorry, I keep pausing. I really like this music. It's so good.
Bustling metropolis where it snowed 7 months of the year. Although it was still August, the trademark wintry feel of the town was already returning to the air. The breeze coming off of the nearby ice blue ocean kept temperatures below 70 even on sunny days, and at night the city's multicolored skyline sparkled a rainbow of blues, pinks, and purples, an iron aurora borealis. Sweet Jazz stood as a center for business and the arts, home to...
Man, that sounds like a really nice place. I really love the Christmas vibes of just Christmas. So, and I love the cold as well. So this sounds like it's just a great place to live already.
First-rate corporations and a world-famous art museum, which had only suffered its first break-in. That's not too bad. Sure, there were a few dozen $1,000 in damage, but that price was nothing for the rich elite of the nation's capital. Well-to-do socialites happily wandered the city's glowing shopping centers and gorgeous diamond-white beaches without a care in the world. Even the emptiest stretch of coastline had a respectable number of beachgoers, all of them happy with smiles as bright as the sand. Well, all except for one. One little girl under a lamppost.
We know that silhouette.
Back and forth like a pinwheel on the edge of a panic attack.
Am I at the wrong intersection?
Molly Blindef had been standing alone on a street corner across from the beach for about 20 minutes now, and she was getting worried. It was Tuesday, which meant that today was one of the rare times she had the afternoon off. Molly had a strange schedule. In order to make ends meet at her family's toy store, the Blindef Toy Emporium, they needed to stay open every day of the week. They didn't have the money to hire any outside help, and that meant that someone from the family had to work the register every single day. Her father had somehow managed to negotiate a system with her school where Molly would attend school on odd days and manage the store on even ones.
How did you convince the school to do that? Like, especially her father, who... Actually, I was going to say no offense intended, but full offense intended, is kind of incompetent. And like a horrible father. Did his only competence come to make her work more? That's awful.
Her older sister Lorelei worked the opposite schedule, and the two would switch off shifts while their father, a toy maker and inventor, would spend all day tinkering away in the basement, making more doodads to sell out front.
Sweet Jazz City is the capital of Taiga Country. Alright. Thank you. Keep dropping that lore. I really appreciate it.
In addition to her work shifts, Molly was also in charge of the family finances. Running the business side of the toy store had been her mother's job, but after she passed away, Molly inherited all of her paperwork, along with her headaches. To most people, it would have seemed insane to have a 12-year-old managing their taxes.
I mean, it still is insane, but...
Because it was! But the alternative was leaving her father to handle things, and that was a no-go. Molly had learned the hard way that relying on her father for anything was a one-way ticket to disaster. Once, she came home from school to find that he had purchased a massive inflatable kiddie pool and several expensive pool toys that now occupied 90% of their floor space. He was all geared out to swim with a snorkel and inflatable duck ring around his waist, but found himself unable to fill the pool because he had forgotten to pay the water bill.
Oh, so he's worse than incompetent. He's actively harmful to the family. Wow.
Her older sister was no better, constantly shirking her shifts and always distracted. There was no way someone like her could make it through all the bylines of a tack sheet. And so, yet another responsibility had fallen to the youngest daughter. On top of all that, Molly was also in charge of cooking and cleaning most of the time, which meant that Molly Blindev had almost no free time at all. Every second of free time she had was precious, and she was starting to freak out.
Bro, I can't imagine being forced to do just everything in the house. And she's only 12. My goodness. Here's a not so fun fact. Molly is canonically malnourished. I'm not surprised if she's the one. She has to stay up like all night. Only goes to school like on odd days, I think they said. She's the one who does the cooking, so she probably gives herself the least amount of food also. And no one else seems to care. My goodness. And when I thought I couldn't feel more bad for Molly, here we are.
Oh, we were supposed to meet here, right?
Her star-sprinkled afro bounced back and forth as she glanced up and down the street.
I'm pretty sure I wrote the address down right. What if I got it wrong? Oh no, oh no!
Molly shook with anxiety. She cowered under a street
She's so anxious.
lamp in her trademark bear hoodie and yellow rain booties. The intersection she stood at was right at the waterfront next to a sparkling white beach. It was a beautiful afternoon and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. For a normal person, it would have been a picture-perfect day in the city. But for a small child alone in an unfamiliar part of town, it felt like an open labyrinth. Danger could pop out anywhere at any time. Was she allowed to stand here? No one else was on this part of the street. Was she doing something wrong? What if someone tried to talk to her?
Oh no. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no!
This is already a disaster, my goodness. She's not even doing anything.
She stared at her phone for help. She could try texting one of her friends to confirm the location, but she was nearly out of minutes this month and she really couldn't afford any overages.
Oh gosh.
She needed to save any more calls for emergencies. Was this an emergency?
No.
No, she decided. This wasn't an emergency. Not yet. She could still ask someone for directions. That's what they did in the before cell phones times. Molly wasn't old enough to remember the before cell phones times, but her school showed her a series of weird old VHS tapes from 30 plus years ago about public safety in the city called Street Smarts. They gave pretty standard city life advice. Don't climb into a trunk of a car, don't eat garbage, don't talk to strangers.
But can you talk to strangers with an S? That's an important question.
It said that back in the day, if you were lost, you could ask for directions. And there was only a small chance that the person you were talking to was a murderer. She looked up and saw a man in a white...
I mean, the chance is pretty small. There's a lot of people around in the world, you know? Yes, the odds are that you have walked past a person that has killed somebody. I think what was like a 5% chance that you in your lifetime will walk past somebody who has murdered another person. Actually, I think it was like 10%. It was kind of high. But what are the odds that they're going to kill you? 1 in 100? I like those odds. I can gamble that.
Pinstripe suit walking down the sidewalk in her direction.
Oh, here comes someone. Okay, let's ask him. I can do this. Remember what Boss said. Be more assertive. Oh, but this guy looks important. He's wearing a fancy suit and a hat. Is it okay to talk to him? What if he's a busy business guy? I wouldn't want to bother him.
Worst case scenario, he just like brushes you off. He's like, can you tell, by the way, that I don't have like diagnosed anxiety? Because I'm like, just, it's fine. I'm constantly being like, it's all right. Not to dismiss her, like, you know, anxiety. It's totally fair to feel like that. I don't feel comfortable just talking to people on the street either. But what else can you do at sometimes?
The man stepped closer.
His face is kind of scary. Well, what if he's a gangster or something? He's almost next to me! It's too weird to call out to him now. I'll just wait for the next person.
Oh gosh.
But no one else is on this road! I have to talk to him! If I don't ask him, I won't be able to ask anyone! Words!
Molly opened her mouth.
I love the sounds Molly makes.
The man kept right on walking. Molly
Oof.
shut her mouth. Well, she tried. Molly was doing her best to be more assertive. She really was, but it was so hard. Especially with strangers. She didn't want to bother anybody.
I get that. For one of my biggest things is I just don't want to be a bother to anyone. I'm fine with doing whatever I do, but the last thing I want ever is to just be in a person's way and like actually bother them.
Though, come to think of it, he wouldn't have been able to help her out even if she had managed to speak to him. She wasn't looking for a place. She was looking for a person. And unless he'd seen them, he would have had no idea where they were.
Oof. True.
Oh well. Molly hoped that she wasn't inconveniencing anyone by showing up at the wrong spot. She hoped she was just early. Most of all, she hoped that there wasn't some terrible reason that they were late.
Foreshadowing. Oh.
Huh? Molly heard a voice. It was a faraway voice, echoing distantly off the walls of the nearby alley. Most people probably wouldn't have heard it at all over the sound of the waves, but Molly had particularly sensitive hearing. What's more, it was a sound that she recognized.
Molly has particularly sensitive hearing. Write that down. I feel like that's gonna come up later at some point. Probably. It feels important.
Voice that she recognized. From a person she recognized.
Uh-oh.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
With a growing fear in her heart, she steadied her hands against the straps of her backpack and sprinted into the indigo shadow of the alleyway.
Again, this is such good background music. And like the sound effects as well. It's all so good. It really sets the vibe of all this and like the scenes.
Phoenica Felicity was so excited to meet her friends at the beach that she had decided to take a shortcut. She had never walked to the beachfront before, but she figured that the fastest way to get there was to take the direct route through the alleys. Just keep walking west and she should arrive in no time. Easy peasy.
Makes sense. I'd do the same, I guess.
Her bouncy blonde hair and high-end dress stood out like a sore thumb against the deep purples of the dirty alley. What's more, she had little ornamental bells in her hair that softly jingled as she skipped. She looked like a little lost lamb, politely inviting any nearby predators to eat her.
What a scene. I'm guessing this is one of Molly's friends and the person who was screaming just now.
It wasn't long before she ran into a wolf.
Hey kid,
Uh-oh.
Hello.
Phoenica answered with the eager sincerity of someone who had just been called on by their favorite teacher.
That's a nice looking bag you got there.
Phoenica looked at her designer backpack.
It was nice. It was baby blue and had a sheep embroidered on it. It was her favorite.
By the way, I actually really like about the writing how different the vibe of their, like, not internal monologue, since this is like written in third person, but like the perspective, how it's written, you can really get a sense of the character just from how they think, even with like those little insights. You know, it was nice. It's her favorite. That's great.
Oh, thank you.
She beamed.
I like your...
Phoenica had been taught to always return a compliment with a compliment. She looked up and down at the person addressing her for anything compliment-worthy.
Listen, it's a nice hat, and ripped jeans or whatever, they're still in style, I think. I don't know much about fashion.
The woman was languid with pallid skin and a long, ratty
CMA.
auburn ponytail. She leaned against the wall in an awkward way, like a dead tree that couldn't decide whether or not it wanted to fall down.
I like your energy.
She decided.
Looks expensive.
You know what? That's a pretty good compliment, actually.
It was.
She smiled.
Well, goodbye.
The woman slid in front of her, blocking her exit.
Wondering where I might find a bag as nice as that one.
I got mine at Baxter's department store.
Phoenica offered.
You could try going there.
The bells in her hair jingled, but the warning bells in her head did not.
Ooh, Baxter's, huh?
She is completely oblivious to the threat in front of her.
Place is pretty ritzy. Don't think I'd ever be able to afford it.
Oh, that is a problem. I know! You could try getting a job!
Phoenica offered this advice with the absolute sincerity of a child. So much so that it somehow wrapped back around to sounding insulting.
An insult that's so sincere, it becomes an insult again. I mean, that's just the thing about kids. They are so brutally honest. It hurts.
Actually,
The wolf said, cracking a crooked smile.
I was thinking it'd be easier to just take this one.
But this one is mine!
Phoenica reminded her.
Not for long.
The silver flick of a switchblade appeared in the wolf's hand. She closed the distance and loomed over Phoenica as though she were 3 times her height. Phoenica gasped.
I get it now.
She said,
You're a bully!
the word most people would have chosen was mugger.
Yeah, you know, thief, mugger, but bully works, technically. Somebody who's using their power to lord over another. In their case, a knife or a switchblade.
I know how to deal with bullies!
Phoenica declared. She cleared her throat and recalled the word-for-word message that the VHS tapes had taught her.
You are only mean because of society and your own personal trauma. Let us stop this horrid cycle of violence. I will take the first step. Here, I forgive you.
Phoenica hugged her. After a moment of confusion, the mugger grabbed the
Yeah.
child by the backpack and hoisted Phoenica bodily into the air.
You know, that's the thing. They always they always tell you just talk it out or whatever. I can't think of a single instance where that actually worked outside of fiction. And very rarely even in fiction is it done well. Cuz like, sure, even if you're right, even if yes, it like on a technical level this is true. They're only mean, or in this case a thief, because society and their own trauma, whatever. Just acknowledging it doesn't change anything, really. They're going to be like, well, I'm like this because of my trauma, but I'm like this and I'm not, and without extreme circumstances, why am I going to change?
She flailed uselessly like a ladybug on its back.
The way that they're describing her is so funny. You know, like a sheep, just a lamb, waiting for the slaughter or whatever. A ladybug uselessly on its back.
You lied to me!
Molly peeked around the corner of the midnight blue brick wall and gasped. Her best friend was being whipped back and forth through the air by some scraggly-looking mugger. The assailant shook her up and down, desperately trying to knock her loose, but Phoenica clung to the backpack straps as though her life depended on it.
Oh, come on, kid! Let go of the damn thing!
Barked the wolf, flailing her around like a dog with a chew toy.
No! I won't!
In most cases, it's recommended that to just give the robber what they want, you know, at risk of, so you don't get shot or stabbed in this case.
Ugh, if I tear the straps or rip the fabric, I can't sell it.
She brandished the knife again and held it close to the girl's neck.
Is this bag really worth your life?
I don't care about the bag, but I can't let you have what's inside of it!
The little girl was trembling, but her big blue eyes were filled with resolve.
Oh, something
Very determined.
valuable?
Yes! It's my friend's and you can't have it!
Phoenica wriggled.
What is it? Money? You got cash in there?
Wait, is money all you're after?
She said this as though it hadn't occurred to her that a mugger might be interested in money.
Here, you can have my purse. Please, take all the money I have, but
She is so utterly I don't know what's the word. Naive? Is that the word? Unexperienced with the world, I guess. I mean, she's a kid, so it's not that weird. But to an extreme degree.
leave the bag, I beg you! It's been a while since my last allowance, so I'm a little short, but I've still got about 5,000 in there.
5,000? Shut up! How stupid you think I am? Plus, you don't even have a purse on you.
Yes, I do. It's a mini purse in my dress pocket.
Your dress has pockets?
Do yours not?
Oh, wow. She really is privileged. to the point of being like, other people don't have dress pockets, which I know is like surprising. I don't wear dresses, but I've heard a lot about how pretty much no female clothes in general seems to have pockets, like dresses especially. Their jeans just have like tiny pockets, or even fake pockets sometimes, which I don't understand the point of. I can like fit an entire Switch in my pocket usually. I can't imagine getting around without that.
Jeez, you really are rich. All right, let's see what's in this thing. Come to mama!
The mugger swung Phoenica back like she was preparing to roll the girl down a bowling lane and then whipped her into the air.
Oh gosh.
The force of the throw was enough to separate Phoenica from her backpack and send them both flying upside down.
No! Feeny!
Molly let out a silent cry. Her friend had been chucked about 10 feet in the air and was about to come down hard on the concrete.
Man, that's really strong. That's like throwing them really high, my goodness.
Molly's legs moved before her head. She dashed out into the alley and subconsciously began using her epithet, dumb, to dumb down the impact of the fall and reduce the damage that Phoenica would take. Even so, it was still going to hurt if she hit the floor.
Oof.
No other cushions in sight. No other choice. A soft green glow surrounded Molly as she dove directly beneath her friend's growing shadow and prepared for impact. Phoenica...
Oof. Again, I'm just saying, Molly's epithet is really useful. Being able to dumb down damage just in any situation, that's so good.
slammed into her and they toppled to the ground in a heap. Luckily for Molly, 90% of Phoenica's body mass was fluff and cotton, so it felt less like getting crushed and more like being hit just a little too hard in a pillow fight.
Ow.
I mean, if most of her body's fluff, it probably would have helped with the drop as well.
Molly?
Meanwhile, above them, Phoenica's backpack had overturned in midair, and the top had come undone. Papers erupted from the backpack and scattered against the damp floor of the alleyway. They weren't the bright, multicolored bills that the mugger had been hoping for, though. These pages were white.
No!
Phoenica looked absolutely devastated. She was instantly crying big, stupid tears.
Oh, gosh.
Molly! Look what you've done! No,
The dramatic music in the background.
worksheets are all wet!
What is this?
The wolf blinked.
Science, history, algebra, all ruined! Do you know how long it takes to dry out a worksheet? It never lies perfectly flat again! It's awful! It's like the paper equivalent of that eraser thing!
Bro, they are on such different pages that there's no way this situation could have ended positively. She doesn't even know that the mugger wanted money.
She blinked again.
Huh?
You know, the eraser thing! Where you try to erase a pencil mark, but it just kind of smudges and smears gray streaks everywhere. And then you think, oh, I guess I need to put a little more apple grease into it. So you do, but the smudge just gets worse. And then you try erasing hard.
I don't know why that happens. I think that in those cases, you're literally just, that's like a smudge eraser, which somebody decided to give you instead of an actual eraser. What? Why? I don't understand. That's so frustrating.
Harder and harder, and the eraser tears clean through the page. And now the page has been ripped, and you're not sure if it's your fault or if it's just a bad eraser. And you can't even be sure if it's a bad eraser unless you test it a second time, and that means ripping the page again. What?
I get the feeling. You know, that was really frustrating when I was like drawing in class instead of paying attention. She has very strong feelings about it, though.
The hell are you talking about?
It's the worst.
She bleated. Phoenica hugged Molly.
Oh, Molly dear, I'm so sorry. You trusted me to deliver your homework for you, and here it is, scattered about a dirty alley floor. I'm a failure.
I agree with what Molly's about to say. You risked your life for that? Like, come on, the homework isn't that important. I never did my homework, and I got through school fine. I don't feel like you had to, like, risk yourself against a person with a knife, you know?
Me? You were willing to risk your life for my homework? Again? Huge!
Also, again is crazy. This... How often does she risk her life for your homework of all things?
Trusted me!
She wept.
It's okay. It's okay.
Molly patted Feeny on the back. It was like hugging a marshmallow.
I'm just happy you're all right.
You're far from all right.
The wolf snarled.
Bro, like, at this point, what do you expect to get out of this?
She gestured towards the upturned backpack, which was now sitting stained in an alleyway puddle.
You just cost me full price on that new backpack! And you aren't leaving until someone covers the difference!
Like I said, I have $5,000.
Phoenica repeated. She reached into her skirt pocket, took out a tiny purse shaped like a sheep, unzipped it, and produced $5,000 bills.
Feeny!
Molly hissed.
Put those away! Why?
Honestly, you might as well just give the $5,000. Like, no offense, but like, this situation I feel like is only gonna get worse if you don't do that. But then again, if there is a chance to get out of the situation without spending $5,000, that would be best. It doesn't seem like she cares at all, though.
I might as well get rid of them. My next allowance is coming up, and I can't seem to use these anywhere. You'd be surprised how hard it is to break 1,000. No!
These are $1,000 bills? Okay, that's another difference between their worlds and ours. I think, well, in the US at least specifically, there was $1,000 bills, but they, like, stopped being used a good while ago. Not the case in their world. They have them.
Molly said, slamming the bills back into Feeney's purse.
I work a cash register for a living!
Hold up.
Said the mugger, closing the distance.
Was that a stack of kilos?
Kilos.
Those real?
No, not at all.
Molly
Is that their way of shorthanding $1,000 bills? Because that is kind of a long name. I like it. Kilos.
flailed.
These are props for a school play. Beanie is playing a rich girl. Oh, Molly. If I were playing a rich girl, I think I'd have far more on me than a measly $5,000.
Molly.
Oh my gosh, she's a rich girl. I've heard. I've never really interacted with really rich people, but I've heard of people who have, and how surreal it is, where they just spend money like it's water. And it's wild. And now here we have one character like that.
Elbowed her.
Oh, yes, they are props.
Never seen a real live kilo before.
The mugger said, inching closer.
Yeah, she did not fall for that at all.
I hear if you put one of them in a vending machine, it just sprouts mechanical legs and walks home with you.
Yes, that's right.
Feeny chirped.
My father bought one once. In fact, some high-end vending machines have programming where if you give them several bills at once, they actually sprout little arms alongside the legs and serve you like a waiter.
Molly muted her.
One of the things she could do with her dumb down ability. But also, that's wild. Vending machines would have to be kind of cheap in this world, actually, if that's the case. Because I'm pretty sure, like, a vending machine is at least a couple $1,000s to buy. So if you only put in, like, $1,000, they, in our world, that would be a loss. But considering how advanced they are, so that seem to have, like, arms and legs, they're probably super cheap. Interesting.
She had the ability to instantly silence both people and objects using her epithet. Feeney's mouth was still moving and her hands continued to gesture, but no sound came out.
So she's practicing her lines.
Molly explained. Feeny continued talking silently. It seemed she hadn't noticed.
Oh, gosh.
Most of the play is a pantomime.
Uh-huh.
The mugger said. She didn't seem to buy it, which wasn't a huge surprise. Muggers don't usually buy things if they can steal them.
These little, like, jokes, I love them. They're
Well,
good.
even if they are just props, I bet I could pass them off to some schmuck for a quick buck. Why don't you just hand those over?
Flailed
Okay, so yeah, she definitely is like, these are definitely real like $1,000 bills. And if they're not, you shouldn't have any issue giving them to me anyway. Smart. Or then again, just a thief. Just like, I'm gonna take something from you, so give it to me.
Molly. Flailed Feeny.
Hey, back off.
Oh?
A new voice spoke from somewhere. squeaky and strange.
Huh?
The mugger
Okay.
checked behind her. A third child stood at the entrance to the alleyway.
Oh, that is such a cool little piece of art. The shadow, the eye. she's very small, but she seems giant in this. I love that. And
This one was even
monstrous.
smaller than the other two. Standing in the distance with her head down, she looked barely 3 feet tall. More like a garden gnome than a
Barely. God, she's tiny.
full-fledged person. But there was something about her.
Ugh, great. Another one?
The mugger rolled her eyes, flinging her body around like a wet sock to face the newcomer.
Get out of here, kid.
Well.
You're interrupting business. Scram, if you know what's good for you.
The mugger casually flashed the switchblade as a warning. The newcomer spoke up.
Oh?
All right. Okay. We got our third kid, I'm guessing. Why is her eye X'd out? I'm assuming that's just because, like, it's hidden under her hair, but normally that means, like, an eye is missing.
If you had any real sense, then you'd be the one running.
The mugger squinted.
Trixie is 4'3", I think. Huh. Interesting. Also, hello. Please ignore my previous comments. Welcome.
This new little girl had strawberry pink hair scrunched up into a single off-center tuft over her right eye. She wore an oversized purple sweater with sleeves that extended past her tiny arms. Her voice was small and scrunchy, like a toy somebody had stepped on. By all accounts, she should have looked ridiculous. But there was
I mean, she does kind of still look ridiculous.
something about the way she moved. No, something about the way she wasn't moving that made her feel off somehow. Stuck still. Too still. Like a crack on a broken television screen, casting long shadows down the alleyway.
Gosh, she's really intimidating.
Far too long for her tiny frame. Her face was still tilted down and invisible. She spoke again.
Oh,
You seem
those are poppy pins? I thought they were called bobby pins. They're put like that to seem as if they were her other eye. Oh, that's really cool character design. I love that, actually.
pretty confident. So I'm guessing this place is your stomping grounds, right? That means I don't have to explain the name Roughhouse to you, right?
Roughhouse.
The mugger raised her eyebrows. Of course she knew the name Rough House. Everybody in this part of town did. The Rough Houses. They were an infamous family of thugs that dominated the shadows of Sweet Jazz City a few years back.
Okay.
Though at this point they were more like an urban legend. Rumor had it the oldest sibling was nigh indestructible. They said that he got his face gashed open on a chain link fence in the middle of a brawl.
I wonder what kind of epithet he had to make him near indestructible. What? Couldn't be like barrier. Barrier was already taken. Unbreakable could work, I guess.
A wound like that would normally be enough to take someone down instantly, but this guy fought through the pain and beat up 10 more street punks before walking himself to the hospital like it was
Oh, well, now we know why. Jesus
nothing.
Christ.
Another sibling was a bomb junkie. Word on the street was that he wound up in prison after bombing the STEM building. And then there was the chick who went through town smashing up things with a giant baseball bat, and another one who apparently had an epithet that could turn you into her slave for the rest of your life if you pissed her off. But those were just rumors, stories that thug.
Well, I get the feeling those were not just stories. Because, I mean, based off of the epithets we know of, none of those abilities are that weird. Also, even the bomb thing could just be not an epithet at all.
Just told their little thuglings at night to scare them crooked. Backstreet boogeymen, they weren't real. The wolf growled and spat.
Yeah, sure. I know Roughhouse. What's that got to do with anything?
Oh, it's got a lot to do with me.
Said the little girl.
After all,
She lifted her head, looking the mugger directly in the eye for the first time.
I'm one of them.
Trick.
Gosh, she is kind of intimidating, which just makes her like designed as like a 3-foot tall kid really funny, or 4'3", I think. Yeah, 4'3". You said, but it just makes it funnier.
Roughhouse. Half of her face was completely covered by her bangs. There was an X-shaped hairpin where the right eye should have been.
Oh.
But it was her other eye that the robber was staring at. Black. Her gaze was almost impossibly
That little dum when they said black, that's so good.
black. Cold. Dark. Absolute. Like staring into a hole so deep that you couldn't help but imagine what it would feel like to fall in. The air around her started to feel tight. The mugger was just as still as the new girl now. 2 alley cats frozen in a stare down.
That's horse baloney!
She managed to choke out.
What I hear, them roughhouses are all in their teens at least. They don't got no kids, sister.
That's news to me.
Trix.
I will say, even if she's lying, which I don't think she is, the confidence that she has is way more than enough to be like, put anybody off. It's like, I don't want to risk it, all right?
She responded, uncomfortably still. The mugger felt like she was being stared through. She reflexively checked behind her. No one there. She wasn't being flanked. Just her 2 marks cowering on the ground. Did they know this girl? The mugger turned back to Trixie.
Hey, what's it to you, huh? They your friends or something?
Never met him before in my life.
She said flatly.
Well, I know that's not true because that little, like, clip that we saw before, they were, like, hanging out, it seemed, and, like, that other guy. But a good bluff.
But, from the sound of things, they're worth about 5,000 bucks.
Damn, she heard that, huh?
There's a reason, you know.
Huh?
Why you haven't heard of me? There's a reason. See, my siblings all have a reputation. You know why that is? It's 'cause people see what they do. Because after they scrap with someone, they let the other guy walk away.
Then, for the first time, she moved.
Oh, God.
Her oversized.
Every description of her, like, that the narrator is giving, it's like listening to them describe a predator. like a panther, you know?
Purple sleeves swung back and forth like a pendulum. Suddenly, something appeared from her left arm. Something with a silver edge. At first, the mugger thought it might be a knife, but as her eyes focused, she realized it was actually the tip of a box cutter.
See, I'm different. The reason I don't have a reputation.
The pendulum swung up. The metallic tip of the box cutter dug into the blue wall of the alleyway. Trixie began to walk forwards, dragging the edge of the knife against the wall so hard that it began sparking.
I don't like to leave witnesses.
It was a ridiculous statement, especially coming from someone of Trixie's stature. But the way she said it, her absolute conviction, the menace, the rage.
Gosh, listen, it's all about presentation. True or not, it doesn't matter. You can intimidate anyone with enough confidence and enough faking it until you make it. And enough apparent confidence, fake or otherwise.
A sudden thought raced through the mugger's head.
I'm going to die.
Oh
She
gosh.
tried to shake it off, but the feeling was perched on her heart like a heavy black bird and wouldn't let go. The child kept walking towards her, eye contact unbreaking. With each step she took, the walls of the alleyway felt like they were warping, closing in towards her the way they do in a nightmare. The mugger had only one option.
Stay back!
She cried.
the music shift from like that very intimidating and like the scratch of the blade to this. My goodness.
I have an epithet!
If someone ever threatened you on the street, the best thing to do was to pretend you had an epithet, especially if you were a Mundy.
All
It
right.
was common knowledge. Even the Street Smarts VHS mentioned it. An epithet was a wild card in any battle. The word alone was often enough to throw an assailant off their rhythm. But not this time. Trixie didn't hesitate for a second. She didn't even blink. She just kept closing the distance with constant, rhythmic steps like the timer on a clock ticking down. Tick, 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 tick. The blade of her box cutter sparked against the wall with each footfall, casting
I guess that, by the way, I guess that is kind of smart. Just like, yeah, I have an epithet. I have an ability. You know, I may not be good with it, but it'll mess you up, I swear. Video is my epithet. I can digitize you. I'll trap you in a video or something like that. Just whatever you can say to convince them to at least hesitate.
Shadows and sinking her face into even deeper darkness.
You're lying.
Trixie said.
Any inscribed with a real epithet would never lead with a knife. That's a Mundy move.
But you're using a knife too! Doesn't that make you a Mundy?
The mugger smiled in a desperate, sweaty way that would have lost a poker hand.
Oh gosh.
Do you really want to tangle with an inscribed?
Again, you gotta at least pretend you're like 100% confident. It's like, yeah, this lie is blatant, but I'm saying it with a lot of confidence, so it has to be true. Come on.
Trixie paused. The sparking stopped. For a second, the mugger thought her bluff had borne fruit. But then, Trixie laughed.
Uh-oh.
And for the first time, she smiled.
Uh-oh.
It was an ugly smile. A deep, unsightly grin twisted across her face, like a doll stretched too far.
And what makes you think this isn't my epithet?
Trixie raised her other sleeve, then flicked it downwards. Another box cutter tip appeared.
Oh
Then
gosh.
2, then 3.
Oh gosh.
5. Bladed silk
Bro, that's really intimidating.
shot out from her sweat.
I keep saying that word, but like, it is. I'd be terrified in this situation.
Claws where her hand should have been and scratched against both sides of the alleyway. Dual spark showers exploded on both sides. She walked forwards again, arms outstretched, welcoming the rain of bright yellow light backlighting her body. The youngest roughhouse looked like some sort of cultic priest, walking towards a sacrifice, ready to carve. Her single eye was wide open and invincible. 4.5 feet of monster.
I do wonder, because I don't think that she's gonna actually kill the mugger. I think that this is all a bluff. Well, I don't think it's all a bluff. I think a good percentage of this is a bluff. If the muggers just stood their ground, what then? Because like the only way to really go from there is to actually stab them and like, you know, attack. Like what are you gonna do then, right? Because you don't want to actually murder a person, even if they were willing to do the same. That's stressful.
So,
The grin twisted.
what do you think? Am I bluffing? Can you defeat me with your imaginary epithet? Huh? Are you willing to make that bet?
The mugger shrunk back. What the hell was she supposed to do in a situation like this? Her eyes darted towards the 2 girls cowering next to the backpack. Desperately, she grabbed the fluffy-looking one and held her at knife point. She pantomimed in mute protest.
Alright, she's still muted. It's probably for the best, honestly. I feel like whatever she said would probably not be the best in this situation.
Stop right there!
She shouted.
Don't you care what happens to these two?
Trixie's grin didn't falter for a second. In fact, it might have grown wider.
You think a hostage can protect you? Go ahead. I don't need them alive to spend their money. Right now, I'd say you still have enough time to get away. But if you stand there behind 2 meat shields while I slowly walk up to you, what's going to happen?
See, this is what I'm saying. While I slowly walk up to you, besides being really intimidating, which is, you know, great for the presentation, it also gives them a lot of time to run. It's like, but what if you arrive in front of them? As I said before, your only option is to attack, or they'll see through your bluff.
What do you think is going to happen when I reach you? Do you really think I'll stop? Is $5,000 worth it to me? Is it worth their lives? Is it worth your life? Well, go on, try it. Gamble. After all,
Their eyes locked. A ring of hungry, silver-edged light cut across the dark of Trixie's eyes like a reaper's scythe.
I've
That visual in my head goes hard.
killed for less.
It didn't even take the wolf a second to decide. She exploded out of the alleyway, howling and ragdolling in her seat, much to the confusion of nearby pedestrians. That mugger wouldn't return to this part of town for years, and she'd never venture into that particular alleyway ever again.
Honestly, the mugger should have ran away way earlier. If they were genuinely like, oh gosh, they should have been out way before.
Trixie watched after her as the attacker's footsteps faded into the distance.
Also, the banjo, that's so funny.
Dead silence was all that remained. Once they were sure she was gone, the two victims on the ground looked up at the demon who had just saved them. There was a clattering sound as several boxes slipped from her sleeves and bounced against the concrete. Trixie Roughhouse did not have an epithet. Trixie Roughhouse had never been in a real fight in her entire life. Trixie Roughhouse began to hyperventilate.
Okay, so at least that much was a complete bluff. Really impressive then. I genuinely believe that she had been at least in a fight before. But I guess no, not that.
Oh, gosh.
She sputtered.
Holy smokes! That was so scary!
Oh
The
gosh.
haunted expression from before had vanished. In its place was the shaking face of a small child who had been separated from her mother at the grocery store. Trixie hadn't lied to the mugger about her background.
Okay.
Kinda. She'd never killed anyone before, but
That is a little clear by this point. I oh my gosh, that like the way that just the reaction there made me feel so bad. Oh my, I didn't even think about how scared she would be the whole time because I was so taken in by her performance. Also, hello, smiling guy. Welcome to the stream. My goodness.
she was the youngest member of the Roughhouse family, and she had
Okay.
learned a great deal from her older siblings. She grew up learning all about life on the street without having to experience it firsthand. Her older sister taught her how to fight. Her older brother taught her how to scare people so bad that she would never need to. She had 4 lifetimes worth of street smarts drilled into her tiny raspberry skull from a young age. She knew all of the swears, which meant that she was a very cool 12-year-old. Right now, she was crying her eyes out.
Yeah, I mean, you can know all of that, but you never know how you're gonna react in a kind of life or death situation until you're in a life or death situation. Oh, whew.
I'm sorry! I didn't know what to do! I was just trying to scare her away, but when she pointed a knife at you, I just doubled down because I didn't know what else to do! But then I bluffed and said I didn't care if she hurt you! What if she had hurt you? Oh, Trixie!
I mean, luckily, they were a fairly normal mugger. If they were a particularly confident mugger, they might have tested that whole, oh, you don't care about them, and actually, like, cut. Thankfully, the criminals of Sweet Jazz City don't seem to be that bad. So, whew, it could have been worse.
Phoenica flung her arms around the smaller girl and began weeping herself.
And Molly, too! You both saved me! You're both so
Aww.
Molly began to tear up too. Her friends were safe. They were all safe. She wrapped her arms around them and hugged them even tighter.
By the way, what a start to this story. Just like immediately get into a mugging. I'm glad they're all okay, though.
A trio of little girls held each other in a ball and wailed together, alone in the alleyway. The kids at school nicknamed them the Neo Trio. This was because when they stood side by side, they looked like Neapolitan ice cream.
Oh yeah, they do actually. Strawberry, vanilla chocolate. Cool.
Chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Molly, Trixie, and Phoenica. Trixie Roughhouse and Phoenica Felicity. They were Molly's best friends, and she loved them more than anything else in the whole wide world.
But honestly, that was such a good, like, way to introduce them, like all the characters. We get their dynamics. We get a good view in the kind of people they are. Like putting them into a like dangerous situation off the bat. By the way, it's already like such an exciting way to start the story. It really grabs your attention. It also gives us a really good view on the kind of people they are. Especially that she's a rich girl who has no idea about the world. she can act really well, even if she's not nearly as hard as she acts like she is. And Molly's is in a ball of anxiety. A ball of anxiety who will still, you know, do what she can to help.
Prologue.
Alright, thank you. You know, technically, I should put that as like a... Stop that recording and then start a new one. Boop. Alright. We're going right into the next chapter.
The Bonsai Blasters.
Oh, Prologue B. Man, what a start. There's like 2 prologues. Okay.
The hour? 4 in the afternoon. The special
All right.
hour. So special that the shows airing on TV around this time were called 4 o'clock specials. Shows like Street Smarts for Kids. The place? Headquarters. Also known...
Is that an actual thing? Because that feels like an actual thing. 4 o'clock specials.
known as the Big Treehouse in Crusher's backyard. The coolest hangout spot any of them knew. At least the coolest one where they wouldn't be kicked out by an employee for loitering.
Oh.
The mood? Solemn. A group of small-time delinquents were gathered around the plastic pop-up table that Crusher had dragged up his tree. They each wore their civilian clothes and hung their heads in sorrow. Today was a dark
Crusher.
day indeed. They had lost their hope, their beacon of light, their leader.
Minions.
Okay. All of these people, I don't recognize a single one. But I do recognize him.
Them. Giovanni was standing some ways away, looking dramatically out the window. His back was...
Oh, gosh. You're so emotional. Wait, also, they're losing their... Oh, right. I forgot. At the end of Epithet Erased, he was essentially going to quit the Bonsai Blasters and start his own gang, right? At least he said something about that.
So that his figure was lit by a halo of ominous golden light. It was difficult to hear what he was saying because he was facing away from them and talking out a window. But nobody said anything because it made him look cool, and they knew
The presentation, it matters, all right?
that was what really mattered.
I take it from your presence here today that you received my group text. You already know what I'm going to say, but some messages are simply too important to be conveyed by emoticons and Darkstar's funny gifs.
Oh. But you can express everything through the gifts. Oh no,
He turned to them.
it's serious.
As of today, I am leaving the Bonsai Blasters.
The minions' heads sunk even lower. They all knew that this was coming. Just
No, the best boss.
a week ago, they had pulled off their first big job, a museum heist. It hadn't all gone according to plan, mostly because they hadn't had one, but at the end of the night, they managed to get away with a very valuable magic amulet. Giovanni had traveled to a seedy town in the middle of the woods in order to get the amulet appraised and sell it. Unfortunately, he had been ambushed by a different faction of Bonsai Blasters and was beaten up pretty badly. According to him,
Honestly, I do like that they are giving an explanation for the people who may have possibly not seen the actual Epithet Erase show. But we know how this went. You know, he did pretty good, you know, after getting beat up. I'd say in the end he won.
he totally kicked
Mainly because a police and Percival and what's her name arrived and wrecked house. But but overall, I think he had a good time.
their butts afterwards. But he lost the necklace in the process, and now he had no idea where it was. Giovanni was less upset about the loss of the necklace than he was with his organization's conduct. He'd always seen the Bonsai Blasters as a way for passionate youths to get together and channel their energy into something positive, like crime. But it turned out that apparently the only thing the higher-ups in the Bonsai Blaster organization cared about was turning a profit.
I can't believe the criminal organization only cared about being criminal for their own ends. Baffling. Don't worry, Giovanni. You can start a way cooler criminal organization.
What was that? Whatever happened to making a statement through your crime? Where's the passion? The intrigue? Where's the heart?
You know, he's kind of like the Joker. I'm sorry.
Giovanni was having none of it, and he was insistent on quitting. Car Crash, the only minion who had accompanied him on the trip, tried to talk him out of it during the long walk home, but Giovanni's mind was made up. He had announced his retirement via group chat using a gif of a popular actress flipping off the camera and saying,
I'm out, bitches!
in big impact font, Darkstar had reacted with a gif of a cartoon dog's jaw hitting the floor.
They really did just communicate purely through gifs, huh?
The rest of the minions protested fiercely. Sure, they'd lost their treasure, but they had successfully executed a museum heist. Giovanni was a wanted man now. That was a big deal for a bonsai blaster. The police usually ignored the low-ranking bonsai blasters and bonsai captains because their crimes were so petty they simply weren't worth the time it took to deal with them. But Giovanni was a bona fide criminal now.
I mean, I guess that makes sense, because the bonsai blasters, I don't know how much they're an actual criminal organization as much as like an MLM. I mean, they announced that they're like a pyramid scheme. And I guess the ones who get higher up actually become criminals, and everybody else is just like, whatever. You like jaywalked, which is technically a crime, but who cares?
He was on the lam. The police had even staked out his house. He'd been hiding out in Crusher's treehouse for the last week in order to lay
gosh, he's like, they're actually trying to get him.
low. The way the minions saw it, Giovanni had clout now. This was his chance to climb even further up the bonsai ranks. Giovanni retorted that he wasn't interested in getting a promotion from a bunch of jerks like the bonsai blasters. Becoming famous wasn't worth being a meanie.
But do not fret, my loyal minions. I have not forsaken you, nor have I given up my dream of becoming the #1 villain of all time. Who you see?
He turned dramatically to face them.
I have decided to start
Oh, now we get to actually see his face, or at least they get to see his face.
my own villainous organization, and you are all invited.
Yay!
What's it called? Asked Flamethrower.
I don't know.
What does it do?
Asked Spike.
I don't know yet.
How will you get funding?
Asked Darkstar.
I don't know that either.
He's like, not a problem. Don't even worry about it. We got this.
So,
He clapped his hands on his hips triumphantly.
are you in?
The minions leapt to their feet and cheered. There was never any question. The Bonsai Blaster organization was an openly malicious, bald-faced pyramid scheme that preyed on teens going through a rebellious phase and disenfranchised divorcees going through their midlife crisis. People mostly joined the Bonsai Blasters just so they could say that they were a part of something.
Okay, so like, on the lower levels, they're barely even criminals. It's just, they're just taking money from you and occasionally sending you on missions.
Giovanni's minions were the same way when they joined. A gaggle of directionless jerks trying to find something, anything in life to get excited about. They'd expected to spray paint a few walls, steal some bikes, littering, loitering, a little bit of lootering, but that was about it. And that's probably what would have happened if they hadn't been placed in the same squad as Giovanni Patage. Giovanni wasn't their leader at first. In fact, the management hadn't assigned them a leader at all. The upper ranks of the Bonsai Blasters only cared about making money, which meant that all of their attention was spent on newbies who looked like their continued monthly membership might turn a profit. Captains and higher-ranking members were only assigned to recruits with a lot of promise. Apparently Giovanni's gang didn't make the cut.
No offense, but I can see why. The museum heist, it was mostly... The gang didn't do much besides Giovanni and Molly, who was not part of the gang previously. But in the new gang, it'll be great.
The rest of them made fun of Giovanni at first. He insisted that his bonsai nickname be Hotshot, but instead the group settled on Cream Puff to mock him for bringing a tray of homemade pastries to their squad's first meeting as a way to say hello to his new teammates. Still though, they had to admit that they tasted great. Whenever
he's a great leader.
the group was in danger of settling into that standing around in a parking lot and doing nothing flavor of teenage boredom typical of a Bonsai Blaster squad, Giovanni would light a fire under them. He came up with schemes, gave them goals to work towards. Midnight snack runs to the gas station turned into elaborate heists. They had show and tell nights where they would see who could steal and present the strangest item.
You know what? Unironically, Giovanni is genuinely a really good leader. Like, he really knows how to motivate his team, keep them going, moving, never letting them settle, while also, you know, keeping them happy, not stressing them too much.
Winners got star stickers. One time they snuck into a convenience store and replaced all of the gas station hot dogs with cattails from a nearby pond.
That reminds me of a TikTok of a guy like biting into a cattail, and it just exploding into the seeds because it's like highly compressed seeds. Whoever got those hot dogs had a rough time.
Undeniably stupid, but it was fun, and it gave them stories to tell. and that was all they really wanted. Giovanni had so many ideas for things to do that following his plans became second nature. Darkstar jokingly called him boss, and the title stuck. In time, the minions had fallen in love with their charismatic doofus of a leader, some of them very literally. These kids weren't loyal to the organization. They were loyal to Giovanni, and they would follow him to the ends of the earth.
I love that. I love that so much. Also, some of them literally, I'm pretty sure 2 of them are in love with him, right? And they have like a rivalry going to try to romance Giovanni.
All right then.
Giovanni slapped the table with a triumphant grin.
We're a team again, boys. And we've already got our first secret mission. It's got 2 deadly phases.
All right.
The group grinned back and forth at each other. Giovanni spread a hand-drawn blueprint across the table.
I'm excited. Let's hear what your new plan is, Giovanni. Hopefully it's better than... Well, I would say it's better than the museum plan, but the museum plan worked out in the end, technically. Even if the plan was... There wasn't a plan. Whatever.
This mission is scheduled for this Friday!
The cheering stopped.
Huh? What's wrong?
This Friday as in... This Friday? This Friday?
Ben asked.
Yes, this Friday. This Friday. Why?
Can we move it?
No, we cannot move it, Ben.
Oh, no.
The deadline is Friday. That's what it says on the blueprints.
He pointed to the blueprints.
Okay.
The word
Friday!
was circled in big
Just the scream from Giovanni there.
letters. Underneath, the words
Or you die!
had been added in smaller letters for clarity.
Okay, so it seems like it's really important that the plan is Friday.
But Friday is my big cheer competition.
Flamethrower frowned. Giovanni gasped. They'd all bought tickets. How could he have forgotten?
I am so sorry. New phase of the plan. Phase 0. Someone needs to stay behind to film Flamethrower's cheer meet so I can watch it later.
I can do that.
Ben raised his hand.
I'm
Alright.
already at all of his practices. I've been acting as a stand-in for the enemy teams, so they've got someone to cheer. They call me the cheerleader.
That's really cute, actually. Okay. So I guess we're gonna be down 2 members. It's fine. I guess.
Good.
Giovanni wrung his hands together evilly.
As for the rest of you, phase 2 of the plan requires transport. Car crash, are you available?
Oh, bro. Car crash. Please, don't let him drive anymore.
I'd love to, man.
Said Car Crash, speaking from a cell phone they had popped up on a table on an old pizza box.
But after crashing our 6th and final family car, my parents grounded me for the rest of my foreseeable life.
You know what? That's fair. Honestly, no, I'm sorry to say it. That's fair. Car crash. You've crashed 6 cars. That's too many. That is 6 cars too many. Even the first one was a lot.
Bummer. Darkstar, how about you?
Giovanni asked.
I'd have to ask my mom first.
Said Darkstar. Everyone collectively groaned. Ugh, Darkstar's mom.
Forget it.
Giovanni wilted.
Your mom over-researches everything. It'll take weeks before we get the okay, and we're on a deadline. Bureaucracy. How about the rest of you?
Sorry, boss.
Spike
Oh
replied.
gosh.
But we're
Did none of them have access to a car right now?
on the street is that the goose that stole my sandwich last spring is back in town. And I'm not letting that web-toed bastard walk away until I get what's mine.
I'm gonna be real with you. I think the goose has probably eaten the sandwich already. Maybe not. Maybe it's put him in the nest for whatever reason. I think you might be done on that.
She punched her leather-studded fist into her hand and cracked her knuckles so hard it sounded like shattering ice.
Okay, that is acceptable.
Giovanni said.
Also, is anybody available for this plan? I mean, it is kind of last minute. You need to do like a couple weeks in advance to like really schedule it, but I don't think anyone can do this. Fun fact, the plan in question is probably the next book that has Mara, Indus, and Ramsey in it. That's exciting. That's really exciting.
As we all know,
He raised his hands like a conductor.
No matter what, any corny 4 o'clock special like Street Smarts tries to tell you.
Revenge is actually awesome.
Listen, revenge is kind of cool. Like they say, you know, if you go on for revenge, make sure to dig up 2 graves for the person you're gonna get revenge against and yourself. I'm just saying, probably gonna kill a lot more than 2 people. It balances out somehow, I think. If your targets are acceptable, I guess. I should really, I don't know why I keep being like, you know, killing is fine. It's not. I keep saying this. I don't listen. You know what? Never listen to me. Don't listen to anything I've ever said ever before.
Minions chorused.
Actually awesome.
Car crash echoed, delayed by chat latency.
It's fine.
Crusher, how about you? Are you free?
Always, boss.
Great! Phase 1 of this mission requires a chef. How are your baking skills?
Crusher banged his fists against the table.
I can make cereal, provided it comes in a box.
All right, that's not bad. That's not bad. I can do that too. Crusher and me are kind of similar in that way.
Cookies?
I will learn for you, boss.
No, that's no good. The art of cookie baking takes years to master, and we only have a couple of days. You'll have to man the home front on this one.
I mean, you could probably make some okay cookies, you know, give it with like a week to practice. The first couple batches are going to be awful, but like after that, you should have okay cookies, you know?
Okay. I will keep the treehouse warm for you, honey.
Giovanni mused.
It sounds like most of you will be
Honey.
indisposed for this mission. Very well. Go about your business. For now, your first assignment is to think of a cool new name for our organization.
See, that's the good thing about being part of a new group. You know, yes, you have all the lack of funding and the lack of resources and the lack of teammates and the lack of a lot. You lack a lot, but you get to name the organization, and that's pretty cool.
Giovanni's boys began excitedly chatting amongst themselves and shooting ideas back and forth for their new bad guy group. Their leader turned dramatically towards the entrance of the treehouse and gazed out at the suburban landscape before him.
This might be more difficult than I thought,
He mumbled.
but there's still a chance. After all, I still have 1 minion left to ask.
Yeah, Molly isn't part of the minion meeting. That's really unfortunate. Oh, was that the whole chapter? Man, we never got to know what the mission is. All right. But before we go into that, I gotta go to the bathroom. I've been like holding it in. I really wanted to wait for that chapter to finish. Whew. Sorry about that. I just really needed to step away for a moment. Alright. Alright, now chapter 3. Interesting that it's been multiple prologues so far. Which is a very fascinating way to start it. I guess, you know, getting different perspectives for the start of the story. Assuming eventually they're gonna, like, intercept, I guess.
Log. The Rabbit Knight.
Oh.
A thunderous roar echoed across a blood-red sky. Otherworldly pink clouds exploded into mist as the shockwave of sound tore through them. Peals of white lightning crisscrossed the heavens like spider webs. Then, a massive figure rose in front of the sun. A colossal reptilian monster standing 100 stories tall.
Oh my god, it is Godzilla. Also, wow, this is a very different vibe than the other ones. Okay, we're getting right into an adventure. Okay.
Nothing ran from the creature. This was a dead land, silent and black. The plants and animals had burned away long ago. Nothing left now but the harsh stone of scorched earth, jagged and obsidian. Before it...
That's such a metal description of the landscape. My goodness. There's 4 prologues and 2 chapters in the sample. Wow. Okay. That's cool.
List of petrified spires that might have once been trees stretched out towards the sky like hands, reaching for salvation, crying out for some last futile chance at mercy. Perhaps today, their calls would finally be answered.
Jeez.
A lone figure strode through the iron forest. A knight covered head to toe in a suit of perfectly polished silver armor with a sword to match at her side. Her outfit practically glowed against the black velvet landscape. Each clink of her metal boots resonated like a melody in this songless land.
The Rabbit Knight. Gosh, where is this happening? I'm assuming it's not in Sweet Jazz City. Well, yeah, no, based on the description, it couldn't be Sweet Jazz. Then again, maybe the surrounding area? I don't know how close we are to it.
She put a hand on the hilt of her blade and called to the creature.
At last,
she said.
After 10 long years, my crusade has finally ended.
I don't know what it is about this design. It's kind of goofy. I think it's because the armor is like so nothing, kind of. Like, and then it's just like on a suit. Oh my gosh. That's so cool.
Voice. Something spoke. From everywhere and nowhere at once. A voice so deep and ancient that it seemed the very earth itself was speaking with her. The monstrous pillar that blocked out the sky rotated until a single blood-red eye appeared, shining down on her with hate.
Oh my gosh, this is so intense.
You? Yes, I remember you. The Rabbit Knight, wasn't?
The thing laughed. A horrid, reeking, guttural laugh, like a rancid cauldron about to boil over.
Have you come to avenge your tiny village? To slay me?
This has gotten really fantasy all of a sudden. Like, I guess the setting is kind of a little fantasy since everybody has, like, epithets, like, you know, abilities. But it felt more like, I don't know what it felt like, actually. It's like a very unique vibe this epithet race has in my mind. But very, okay. It's like, I feel like we're transported to a different genre.
I have.
Many before you have tried.
Then again, I don't really know much about the world besides, you know, there's like a city, there's Taiga Country, which is Sweet Jazz City is like the capital of. I don't know a ton, so maybe the rest of the world is just like this.
And all have met their fate between my fangs and my flame. You shall be no different.
Not so, dragon.
The knight said.
For I have grown strong in the many years since we last met. I have traveled far. I've gained the king's favor. I have single-handedly made my way through these scorched lands. And I have brought with me the sword of the eclipse.
The knight drew her blade, slowly and with purpose.
The way they said eclipse, I don't know why that made me laugh. Okay. A really classic scenario, you know. Inciting incident, those village gets destroyed, now they go on a mission. Now, get the legendary sword, slay the dragon. Very classic so far.
The moment the hilt left the scabbard,
which is interesting. Also, a really cool sword.
a bright light radiated from the sword. It was unspeakably beautiful. The weapon was split in two colors down the length of the fuller, one half as white as pure snow, and the other a black so deep it seemed like a hole in the air. She leveled the sword at the dragon.
That's a pretty cool description. I love that.
It has been many years since I last laid eye upon that blade. But, foolish rabbit, thou must know the legend. The sword of the Eclipse is useless in the hands of a mere mortal. To strike a foe with it is to cast away one's own life. No. The sword's true power
Cast away one's own life. Does it like drain your life force when you use it?
can only be wielded by a Lunarian, a dweller of the moon. They were wiped out centuries ago.
Oh, well, this is obvious. Of course she's a Lunarian. Lunarians, rabbits are very often associated with the moon. You know, there's like the whole rabbit on the moon thing. And she's the rabbit knight. That's...
I saw to
It's
it
pretty obvious.
myself.
Okay.
The knight smiled.
Not all of them.
Suddenly, she cried out, a cry of power. Peals of brilliant moonbeams shot out from the slits in her visor, spearing into the dark landscape. Everywhere the moonlight touched, flowers bloomed. Grass grew a bright, vibrant green, as if to defy the dead land around it.
What is her epithet?
The knight's aura flared around her body, adding a second protective layer on top of her armor. The aura extended beyond her head, and two long appendages whisked past the edge of her helmet, forming a pair of majestic rabbit ears.
My father may be the one who taught me how to wield a sword, but this is the gift my mother bestowed upon me. My mother's secret bloodline technique! That's right, I am half Lunarian!
Okay. What is going on right now? Okay, genuinely, when I said before, this feels like a different genre, the further we go into this, it really just feels like a completely different story now. I'm a little confused, to be real.
An Eclipse Lunarian!
Oh gosh, that's interesting.
The dragon recoiled.
No, it cannot be! Impossible! They are but legend, nothing more than a myth!
They will say the same of you once you have been slain. Now come, beast! Come and face your demise!
The knight held her shining sword at the ready.
No! The prophecy!
Okay.
Could it really be true?
I see fear in your remaining eye, dragon.
The knight grinned.
What's wrong? Does it remember? Does the sight of my sword remind you of that day? When my mother stole your other eye before you killed her?
Silence, girl. I will not die. Not here.
Okay.
No! Not ever!
Are we gonna see the actual fight now that we got past like the little intro speech?
Panic force, the dragon swung its enormous body down to glare at the girl face to face. No longer silhouetted by the light of the pink sun, its horrendous form was plain to see. Its left eye had long since burned out, but the right seared with red fury, a single coal in an ancient hearth, crimson and hellish. One last ember that hinted at the roiling fire deep inside the monster.
By the way, I want to mention, this dragon design is so cool. It's like a lava dragon kind of thing. The fact that it's a goopy is a little interesting. I wonder why. Is it like magma? Is like that the feel it's trying to invoke there?
The fire that had turned what was once a paradise into these scorched lands. The fire that had robbed so many of their families and their lives. The fire that all in this world knew to fear. The fire of the dreaded S'more Dragon of the Scorched Land!
Oh. S'more. It's a s'more. It's a burnt s'more, also. I understand. Still, really cool design.
Horrid to look upon, awful to taste. Any sweetness that it once had burned away long ago in the bonfire of its belly. Now it's sneered out at the world with hatred from underneath a crusty, ashen armor. Its chocolate scales, once tempered and shining, were now dull, dotted with white fat bloom like lichen on a dead tree.
Actually, that does explain the design a lot, because like the white, the goopiness, that's the marshmallow. The outside of it is like the burnt side of the marshmallow. Fire inside. That's cool. But it's actually a really cool design. I love that.
The cracks between its scales pulsed and glowed like a lava flow, and smoke poured from its mile-long spine like a steampunk skyline. The dragon
mile-long spine? My goodness, this thing is giant.
Lowered its head and roared at the night, its graham cracker maw filled with horrible dripping marshmallow teeth that morphed and melted as it spoke.
I will roast you. I will burn you like the rest of your village for your insolence.
It sneered and exhaled a burning hatred against her armor. The dragon hoped that the girl was scared. It could not see her unfazed smile behind her visor. She had waited for this day for too long to be scared of anything anymore.
Okay.
Rejoice, dragon, for I am merciful.
She is, by the way, the way she's delivering her lines, she is really confident in this. Kind of smug, almost.
And though you do not deserve it, I shall grant you a kindness. I promise to end this in one blow.
The Rabbit Knight held her sword aloft and pointed it straight at his belly. However, she was not holding it by the hilt. She had lifted the blade by the pommel, the far end of the weapon. It was massively heavy, but she held it with ease, a testament to her unparalleled strength. The dragon's crusty eyes squinted. This was no swordsman's stance. No. The way the Rabbit Knight held her weapon was far too dainty.
I'm glad they pointed it out, because holding the pommel is just like a horrible way to hold a sword. For like a lot of reasons. I guess like to use it no, even if you wanted to use it in like a fencing way, that would be just a bad way to hold it. Whatever, they're gonna explain it.
She outstretched her free hand into the empty air ahead of her.
Secret Lunarian technique!
The fingers on her free hand spun around in a flourish.
This feels anime. There we go. I was like trying to... There was like a vibe to all this. I'm like, what is the vibe here? It feels really anime compared to everything else, honestly. Is this like an in-universe show? Why? No. Well, why would it get so much detail if it was? Well, I mean, clearly I'm pretty sure she's like Molly's sister, right? Because you can, like, the brown hair, like the freckles. Well, yeah. Is she like a TV show star or something? Well, no, wait. That wouldn't make sense. They wouldn't have money. Well, unless she like cut off ties because her dad is awful. Well, it doesn't sound like it. I'm sorry. I'm trying to puzzle this together.
And with a snap, a spark of iridescent light twinkled between her fingers. She brought her hand
Of
down
course.
in an arc and drew a brilliant rainbow through the air. She brought her arm behind her, then above, then all the way back to the front in a perfect circle, linking the ends of the rainbow together in a vibrant ring. The moment the circle was complete, the rainbow shimmered, solidifying from transparent color into an arc of solid light. She grabbed it with her free hand, and then drew the sword of the eclipse back towards her chest with the other. As she did, a second rainbow sprouted off of the ring and knocked itself into the pommel of the sword. She pulled it back like a drawstring on a bow. She wasn't going to slash the dragon with the sword. She was going to fire it like an arrow. The name of her attack rang out against the pink sky.
Mochi Moonbow!
The Mochi Moonbow! No! That's the ultimate move!
This is so ridiculous. I'm sorry. It's just like The further we go, the more ridiculous it gets, and the more baffled I am. A s'more dragon, a mochi moon, mochi. Okay.
That's right. This is the end dragon.
The
Right.
knight grinned as her aura like rabbit ears flared with power.
This is for my village.
No! The dragon cried, suddenly seeming much smaller than before.
Please, I didn't mean it.
It put its chocolate paws together in a pleading prayer, but the knight could not be swayed. She pulled the drawstring.
This is for all the lives you've stolen with your flames.
The sword was pulled back as far as it would
Is this a dream?
go, but the knight wasn't done yet. Her aura surged in a series of sparkling white flourishes, flares, and dancing crosshairs. She would put everything she had into this attack. The moonbow shook, its string quivered with enough power to launch a skyscraper. This would be the final blow!
And this is for my family.
Who you burned! An echo punched into the fan.
Also, didn't her mother die in like a fire? Maybe I'm reading too deep into it, but okay.
See, the rabbit knight winced. Her bow faltered.
Come on, no, not now.
Something was wrong. The air of the scorched lands rippled, as if the sky was just a reflection in a pond that someone had poked. Then, without warning, Molly Blindeff stuck her head through an opening in the air.
You were supposed to do the dishes!
She said,
Now I'm not gonna have enough time to make dinner and do my homework.
The knight groaned with her entire body. Her stately posture evaporated, and the sparkling power dancing through her bow flickered away like a dying flashlight. The rabbit knight speared.
Okay, wait. I think I'm even more confused now. I thought she was about to wake up and was like, "Oh, you interrupted the dream right as it got good." But it seems not that.
Her sword into the ground in frustration and lifted her helmet. She tossed it to the floor in a tantrum, and it shattered into sparkles like a falling star.
You're so annoying.
Lorelei Blindeff, Molly's freckle-faced older sister, 17 years old and an absolute brat.
Okay, so wait. I'm sorry. I need to process this. Right, so she's the sister, which, by the way, is having Molly do all the work, not even taking, like, her shift. Having Molly, the 12-year-old child, do all the work. I was going to say, is this what she's doing? But I'm not even sure what this is yet.
Her green eyes were almost like Molly's, but just a little bit wrong. The younger sister had a quartet of dots in her iris, arranged like holes in a button, while Lori's trio of eye dots danced in a triangle, bottom side up, a radioactive warning label. Her hair was the color of burnt caramel, dotted with...
So she's toxic, is what I'm hearing.
Honeycomb highlights that came together in a trio of blonde locks sticking out from the front, combed back into rabbit ears. The teenager glared at her little sister. She had come here to yell at her again. That was all she ever did. Ugh. Molly's epithet could be used to make things quieter or to simplify them by dumbing them down, a volume dial to defend against sensory overload. Lorelei's epithet, augment, was sensory overload incarnate. Where the younger sister could make things quiet, the older sister could make them louder. That said, Lori's ability to manipulate noise wasn't the problem. The real issue was her ability to augment reality.
Oh! I was about to be like, augment? My immediate thought was like, augmenting yourself, boosting your abilities. That's really powerful.
Ever since she was little, Lori could make what she called dream bubbles.
Okay.
They were a sort of pocket dimension, and inside each one was an entire world where Lorelei could manifest whatever she wanted. High fantasy castles, carnivals, ice cream parlors, you name it. So long as she could dream it, she could create it. And little girls are very creative.
That is such a good ability to have. That's awesome. I would love that. Then again, I'd probably... Honestly, if I had that ability, I'd probably be doing the exact same thing. Dropping into a fantasy world and just, like, living out my isekai dream adventures. Okay.
That said, little girls can also be very stubborn. Her powers had caused no shortage of difficulty for her parents growing up. When Lorelei was upset, she would lock herself away inside one of her dream bubbles for hours or even days at a time. There wasn't anything anyone could do about it. Her worlds looked as flimsy as soap bubble spheres from the outside, something you could pop with a finger. But in reality, their iridescent exterior was as hard as iron. When Lori was trapped in her own worlds, nobody could touch her. Nobody, except for Molly.
Right. Because she can dumb stuff down. That's... I can see why that would make... Yeah. Because you can just go in. It just never come out. Well, I assume there has to be a limitation. But you could just never come out. It's like... Oh, gosh. How are you supposed to... How are you supposed to raise a person who can literally lock themselves away in a world where everybody is a yes man? And it's like, oh, my parents are so mean. They always say no to me. Boom. I imagine versions of my parents in, like, this fantasy world that are always nice, and they always do what I want.
Molly's ability was the antithesis of Lorelei's. She could dumb down an idea until it no longer existed, simplify an entire paragraph of description to nothing but an ellipsis. Everything in Lori's worlds was created from nothing, and no matter how complicated she made her myths and magics and monsters, or how much time she spent on them, Molly could erase them. Lori hated her for that. Molly never wanted to play along. Molly never cared about all the time Lori had spent designing things. She just came in to bother her, to yell at her, to make her do chores, to pick up a shift or help out at the counter because the store was busy. Her dumb little sister was absolutely no fun at all.
Okay. How do I react to that? There's a lot of feelings there. Okay. First of all, on one hand, let's start from Lorelei's side. I get it, I guess. I do kind of get it. You work a lot on stuff, and you feel bad when people don't care about it, and when there's... And somebody can literally just erase what you've done. I'd be pretty mad about that too. However, I feel like you could just do your chores and then go into the fantasy world, right? Like, the real world exists. Well, I mean, what's real, really? What does the real world? How real are these dream bubbles? Because depending on how real they are, I guess maybe you probably wouldn't care about reality. I don't know. I'm on Molly's side mainly because Molly doesn't deserve this. She's just a kid, man. Please help her out just a little bit.
Her dad understood, though. He was proud
of anything your dad sides with is like a terrible idea.
Her creativity and encouraged it, taking ideas from her worlds to make new toys. He was always nice to Lorelei and didn't mind if she took some time off. Molly was in the middle of yet another practice speech about how she was feeling really overwhelmed lately and how it was probably Lorelei's fault because, according to Molly, everything was her fault.
Oh, well, first of all, that's a really cool photo. The dragon seems so like, am I interrupting something? He's like nervous. Molly seems angry too. She doesn't care. She really doesn't care. It's like, come on, your sister is like struggling
lately and how it was probably Lorelei's fault because, according to Molly, everything was her fault.
What a waste of time.
Lori stamped her foot to stop her mid-speech.
Fine,
she said.
If you have a problem with my work schedule, why don't we go and ask Dad about it?
She proposed the idea with an ugly smile.
We'll let him decide.
He always takes your side, though.
Yeah, probably because he actually likes me.
Wow. Wow. That's a rough thing to say to your sibling. Is like, oh yeah, because mom doesn't love you, but like in a way that really hurt. Or dad doesn't love you in this case.
Molly stopped. Her face scrunched and pouted. The words had done more damage than Lori intended. Her sister had so much she wanted to say, but her planned speech crashed against her closed mouth like a dam. She looked down at her boots, turned, and left, stepping back out through the portal the way she came. For a second, she almost looked back like she wanted to say something, but turned away again before she even made eye contact. The portal closed. Lori put a hand on her hips.
Good.
And she doesn't even realize how awful the thing she just said is. I have very negative... I hope you change and become a better person, but right now, I greatly dislike Lorelai.
She turned towards the Samor dragon, who had been looming above the sisters the entire time with an expression of petrified awkwardness. The kind you have when you're at a friend's house and their parents have a bad argument in the next room over.
Oh, gosh.
Well...
When the parents yell at your friend and you just have to sit there like...
Lori tapped her foot.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
The dragon cleared its throat.
I will defeat you, knight. You'll never avenge your family?
I mean, it doesn't seem like she cares that much about her family. Considering... Whatever.
Gawked at him like an unsatisfied director.
That's terrible!
Lori flopped over like a doll that had been left out in the rain. Then she snapped back up.
Great! Now the moon is all shy. Oh, just forget it.
The dragon also had something to say, but it never got the chance. The rabbit knight snapped her fingers and it exploded into a mountain of moon dust.
The evil is defeated.
Lori rolled her eyes and spun a finger like a flag in a lazy motion of sarcastic celebration.
Hooray!
She folded her arms. A whole 2 hours of setup and play absolutely wasted.
2 hours? Man. Wow. Okay. Wow. Sorry, I'm very conflicted here. So, you've been setting this up for 2 hours. In that case, I kind of understand. But also, poor Molly. Like, if you didn't have a person that was struggling because of you, it'd be fine. Like, your own enjoyment is okay. Doing things purely for yourself, doing things like this purely for yourself, that's cool. But not when it hurts other people. Not when it actively damages another person, even in a very passive way. Because the decision to not interact with somebody is a decision. And that's your sister. And all she can think about is herself.
She huffed. She puffed. Stupid dragon. Stupid sister. She pretended that it was their fault that she felt so sour all of a sudden. She pretended that she had never really cared about getting revenge on the dragon in the first place. That it didn't matter. That it was all a fake story anyways, and that her family was fine. She tried to pretend that it was Molly's fault that her little sister was starting to cry as she left.
Ugh. She ruins everything.
Immediately... Okay, so she at least is... She isn't entirely unaware that this is her fault. That she is a big source of her own problems. But, unfortunately, she just pushes that away. She's like, whatever, it's their fault. It's not my fault, it's their fault. That makes me very upset. Sorry, I'm kind of emotional. I sincerely hope that she and Molly find some sort of common ground by the end of this. Oh, well, probably not. We won't see it because this is just the first six chapters of Prison of Plastic. So it's probably, if they do reconcile, it's probably gonna be somewhere later in the book. Oh, okay. Oh. What time is it? Ooh, it's 3. Okay, should I do the last prologue? Because you said it was 4, right? Normally I end stream at like 4, but it's a Friday. What are you guys thinking in chat? Chat hasn't been very active today either. We only got like 3 people, I think. Like, but then again, that's never stopped me before from streaming long hours. I don't know. Anything comfortable with it? You know what? I am feeling pretty good. I feel like we can do one more. We can finish off the 4th one. Oh, what the? Oh, the next prologue isn't even that long. Okay. We'll get through it then.
Everything.
Okay.
Prologue. The instructor.
The STEM building was the crown jewel in Sweet.
By the way, I didn't mention it before. It's kind of funny that they just have STEM in this world. It's like, it's such a different world from ours, but STEM exists.
Jazz City's multicolored skyline. A state-of-the-art research center towering 60 stories tall with glass windows polished so meticulously that a person could see one side of the building clear through to the other. STEM didn't actually stand for anything. It was just a stylization. The company...
Oh, okay. I was about to be like, oh, you know, like STEM, science, technology, I forgot what the E and the... Is it M is like mechanics or something? But never mind. It's like kind of similar to our world. Except some things are just different.
It originally specialized in agriculture, and it made a name for itself by developing strains of fruit that could be grown in almost any climate, which was a valuable innovation in a country with so much permafrost. Right, because
Taiga country is like covered in snow most of the year. So yeah, that is pretty cool. Also, that's just genuine, like a really good invention that we could use in our world as well.
The STEM building itself dedicated more than 70% of its floor space to vertical farming, and its massive indoor orchards yielded crops year-round. The company began rapidly expanding a few years back, and in almost no time at all, they'd become a huge conglomerate. STEM seemed to have its hands in a little bit of everything. Robotics, fashion, entertainment, civil planning, nanomachines, you name it. The STEM logo is popping up practically everywhere these days.
Okay, so the technology in this world is more advanced than ours in various ways we've seen already. Nanomachines. That's really advanced. Also, the STEM building was the place that the roughhouses bombed when they lived on the streets. In the first prologue.
This rapid growth was attributed to the business acumen of the company's current CEO. He was famous for his silver tongue and always knowing what to say to make business negotiations go smoothly. On top of that, the company had a unique hiring policy. They actually prioritized hiring Mundies over inscribed. In most places, being inscribed was a huge benefit on a job application. After all, if you're going to pick an intern to brew your coffee, then you might as well hire the one who can levitate the cup with his mind. It's neat! It's cool! It's irreplaceable! Better to be bad at your job than to be mundane.
Okay. Alright. Interesting that they prioritize Mundies. I wonder why. Why do they prioritize? You know? I feel like just getting a person who's good at your job would be good enough, but... Although, now that they've said that, I had a small thought in my mind. There's actually a pretty large chance that the STEM is directly involved with, what's the terrorist, like the Mundi terrorist organization called, Ocean something? Ocean Blue? Oh, they're almost certainly involved with them somehow.
This mentality was all too commonplace in the business world. But STEM was different. STEM believed it was important to cultivate all talents, not just inborn ones. The company...
okay. It's not that they prioritize Mundies over inscribed. It's that they just get whoever's good at the job.
Made a habit of headhunting the innovative and intelligent people that society had left behind.
Bliss Ocean, thank you. I just could not remember what it was called for a moment.
In favor of their inscribed competition. In the current market, there were plenty of such people, and so the company flourished. This also meant that the company had excellent PR among Mundi communities, which didn't hurt their sales. Of course, it's more than possible that the reason the company operated this way was that the CEO was a Mundi himself. A valet was waiting for that CEO right now. He stood in the sub-basement of the STEM building in an underground
Oh, this is the valet. I was like, is that the CEO? No.
parking garage, leaning against a sleek-looking limousine and smoking a cigarette. He'd pulled the car around 10 minutes ago for the usual weekly appointment, but his boss still wasn't there. The valet exhaled a stream of smoke and stared at the set of elevators against the wall. One of those elevators, the one that required a key, went straight up to the CEO's penthouse.
Alright, cool. Very rich. Makes sense. STEM sounds like a very rich corporation.
He's probably popping champagne in his private pool or something and forgot what day it was.
The valet thought, sighing smoke.
Lucky jerk.
The valet hated this part of the job. Felt like a waste of time. He wasn't even here to drive the man anywhere. The CEO had his own private chauffeur for that, because of course he did.
I mean, think of it this way. You're just getting paid to stand around right now. Like, what? Sure, it's boring and a little soul-crushing, but take what you can get, honestly.
No, all the valet was there to do was pull the car around. He rolled his eyes and groaned internally. He's going to miss out on his break at this rate. About a minute later, the lights on the private elevator's display clicked on. 60, 59, 58, 55, 51, 42, 30, 19, 5. The numbers were going down fast. Too fast. Almost like the elevator was falling or something. The elevator hit B3 with a somewhat audible thud and a crackle. For a moment, the valet was worried that the cable had snapped or something, but the doors swung open, same as usual, and out skipped a woman.
Oh, well, I guess they just have one of them, hyper-advanced elevators. Don't worry about them. They can go down really fast. It's actually, although in real life, I don't think they can do that at all. Because it's not that elevators can't go down fast. It's that, you will start floating and then crash into the ground if they go down fast. And, it's not a good idea.
Come on, Slowpoke! We're gonna be late!
Is that not the Bliss Ocean, like, robot girl? Their appearance is different, obviously. That, like, hair is different color, eyes are not. But that really seems like her, like a disguised version of her. Am I crazy?
The girl trotted over to the limo, turning circles mid-hop to check if the slowpoke in question was following her. She was wearing the smart-looking, sterile white uniform typical of STEM employees, along with a matching driver's cap. Slowpoke, for his part, teetered out of the elevator on unsteady legs like he was seasick and had just fallen off a boat.
Also, I mean, her voice is a little energetic. Was that the robot girl's voice? I don't know. It feels like it.
Coming, he croaked. He wobbled towards the limo like a newborn deer. His face was deathly pale, and he looked nearly ready to topple over. As he passed the valet, he offered him a weak smile and an apologetic nod.
Okay, so this is the CEO. He does not look how I expected. Much younger, in general, I guess.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
Hurry up and get in!
The chauffeur tapped her foot at rapid speed
Oh,
and
gosh.
spoke to her boss in a manner that should absolutely have gotten her fired. She swung open the car door and slipped in, slamming on the horn immediately. Beep, beep.
Come on, Nathan!
Naven Nucknuck, the CEO of STEM.
Nuck. That's a funny last name.
The valet had dropped the limo off a dozen times before, but no matter how many times he saw him, he just couldn't help but be unimpressed by this man. The CEO of a multinational conglomerate, world-renowned for his business savvy, and a major mover and shaker in the financial world. When people picture that kind of person in their head, they usually imagine a fat cat in a $5,000 suit smoking a cigar from the top of a high-rise with a personal vending machine serving them drinks.
I mean, yes, that is what I imagine most. But to be fair, billionaires tend to dress however they want, really. And while, you know, people say billionaires dress, like, really simply, technically they have, like, basic clothing, like, but all their clothing is, like, from really niche. You have to have money to hear about, like, brands. Billionaires don't buy Gucci. They buy from an organization you've never heard of, which makes, like, silken clothing. Silken t-shirts or whatever. He's like 30 years old. He does not, I mean, he looks good for his age. I'll give him that. But also, you know, maybe he just likes to leave business, you know, at work. Outside of work, he's like, whatever. I am not You don't need to have all that business savvy when you're not at work, is what I'm saying.
That image couldn't be further from the truth. Naven was a pale man of underwhelming height who wore Argyle sweater vests, white gloves, and little shoulder capes. The sort of ensemble a weird theater kid
Oh, he does have white gloves.
might wear to a doomed first date. He had a mop of bizarre hair the color of a neon green highlighter, and there was always a meek, apologetic smile on his face. His eyes were squinted shut like a harlequin doll staring into the sun. Tabloids often speculated about what the elusive CEO was really like. He was infamous for almost never meeting with more than one business partner at a time in person, opting instead for video calls on a private line. He never showed up to press conferences either. The media treated him like some kind of man of mystery, but the truth was that the guy was just sickly.
I'm slightly less sure about the connection to Bliss Ocean because he doesn't seem like the kind of guy. But then again, a nice person who's like genuinely nice, but is secretly like a leader of Bliss Ocean, like of a terrorist organization. That's like a classic like twist. Maybe I'm thinking too far ahead. We're not gonna get the reveal in this on this stream or in these like 6 free chapters. But I can't help but wonder. Then again, there's also the possibility that other people are part of Bliss Ocean. But then again, this feels like that girl who's like part of Bliss Ocean, like the robot-looking girl.
Constantly had headaches and shied away from people, even those who worked for him. The only ones who ever seemed to spend any real time with him were his endlessly rotating parade of chauffeurs. The valet almost never saw the same one twice. There's always a woman, though, and always about the same build. Today's model was some gothy-looking chick who had ebony black hair with purple streaks in it. She was ruder than most of Naven's girls, but not by much. They were always pretty outspoken. And always pretty. The tabloids had noticed this as well. They'd snapped a few pictures of him with different drivers and collaged them into a cover page. STEM CEO, businessman, and womanizer, it screamed in an accusatory yellow font. There wasn't any concrete evidence to support this besides the photos, but it was hard to prove a negative, so the public had latched onto it,
Oh my gosh.
as had some of STEM's employees.
That's... I mean, that's just like Twitter. It's hard to prove a negative, so, hey, I said this thing, and you can't prove it's not true. I can't prove it is true, but you can't prove it's not. So I win. But also, all these different, like, chauffeurs that he gets, I'm almost certain they're all the same person. Her, and just, like, with a different appearance. That feels... Again, this feels like the robot girl. Am I crazy? Am I seeing things? Nobody in chat has said anything about it. I don't know. Is it just me?
Lucky jerk.
The valet thought again, casting a sidelong glance at the chauffeur.
I guess girls really do chase after guys with lots of cash. Even guys like this.
He stared at the man trundling out of the elevator. Naven wasn't exactly ugly or anything, but he was the kind of guy you could squeeze out of a tube of toothpaste. The man had the constitution of a wet sock.
First of all, rude. But second of all, I don't know. Some people like that.
See you next week, said the wet sock, looking about 15 seconds away from throwing up. The valet nodded and watched as Naven let himself into the back seat.
Just the casual said the wet sock. And like lines like that are so good.
To the limo. The instant the door was closed, the chauffeur took off like a rocket, wheels screeching around the bend and out of sight.
Jeez, none of his girls can drive either.
The valet wasn't wrong. The chauffeur's driving was nightmarish. The limo whizzed through the city like a torpedo. It was lightning.
I wasn't gonna say it because it feels like spoilers, but you're not crazy. It is her. Okay, thank God, it is her. I was like, is she like a twin or something? But it's like, no, it has to be her. It looks just like her. And they described how they wore like different clothing. It has to be, right? Okay. I felt like I was looking my mind looking at her.
Erratic and somehow completely accurate, like a bullet train zipping through a marshalling yard or a dollar bill on a fishing line. The driver grinned.
If we keep running late like this, we're going to get arrested, you know?
She said it in a sing-songy way that dripped with a concerning amount of excitement.
Oh, she wants to get arrested. I mean, it's fine. You're rich. You can pay off the police. Be like, listen, I'm sorry. Give me a ticket. I'll pay the ticket. It's fine. It's just all right.
You didn't have to override the elevator, Nathan sighed. His stomach was still doing flips.
Sure I did!
She laughed.
You said these classes were too important to be late for and that your work was too important to skip. So the only thing left to cut out is the transit time!
The limo.
I mean, she's not wrong. Classes. Alright, interesting. Don't know what classes. I guess we'll find out soon.
Shot through a back alley to avoid a traffic jam. Dubiously legal at best.
It wouldn't be a problem if you weren't so slow.
I don't think that's legal at all.
Slow poke, slow polka dot, band that only plays slow polka music.
Okay.
Again. The reason he was running late today was because of the museum robbery last week. His organization had several investments in that museum. The unexpected break-in had really thrown a wrench in things, and now his subordinates were all scrambling to reschedule. He couldn't just leave them in the lurch like that.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a really important situation. By the way, I really like how we do occasionally see the ripple effects of the whole museum heist. You know, with, like, the police upping their actions against the bonsai blasters, Naven being late, essentially, while trying to deal with that in his own corporation. It's just nice. It really makes the world feel lived in a way.
Naven always ran himself ragged trying to help other people. It was one of the many reasons he seemed so exhausted all of the time. Naven was the kind of person who would adopt every stray on the street if nobody was around to stop him. His coworkers made fun of him for it, the girl in the driver's seat especially. All told, he sort of deserved the hazing. Naven didn't have the time or energy to take on more work, but still, he couldn't help himself. The man was fatally empathetic.
Oh, well, that's really unfortunate. Also, cutting into my whole theory about, you know, connection to Bliss Ocean is making it seem slightly less likely. Unless he's supporting Bliss Ocean because, for, like, equality, you know? That kind of thing. You see that? I don't know. I feel like I've attached... I always do this. I attach myself to a theory that I come up with at the very beginning. Which has no evidence at all. There's like... The only possible evidence that I have, which is not evidence, is one... He's like the CEO of a big corporation. And corporations are always evil in these like kind of shows. Two, I'm pretty sure that... confirmed, that's the girl who's part of Bliss Ocean. So I guess that second was actually a pretty strong piece of evidence.
A few months back, he'd gone out on an errand, and by the time he came home, he'd somehow agreed to start giving speech classes to a young girl that he had literally just met. She needed help learning to communicate, and interpersonal communication was his specialty. How could he not help? How could he say no when she asked if her friends could join the class as well? The same part of him that wanted to help the Mundys of the world made it impossible to turn his back on a group of children in need of his assistance.
Aww.
Sure, it was hard to come up with a lesson plan in addition to all of the business meetings and side projects his organization took on, but he couldn't stop now. The students had come a long way, and one of them in particular was showing a lot of potential.
Bro, how do you find the time? Like, at all? Like, literally at all? Well, I guess he doesn't, really.
Suddenly, far too suddenly, the car came to an abrupt halt. The outside of the vehicle lurched, but the interior and its occupants stayed perfectly still, as if they'd anticipated this sort of driving and installed gyroscopic hydraulics. The chauffeur stuck her feet up on the dashboard.
Here we are, right on time.
The limousine had pulled up next to the Blind Deaf Toy Emporium. Naven popped open the door and daintily stepped out of the car. You sure you don't want to...
What nice art, also.
Come? He gave her a playful smile, knowing full well she wouldn't be interested. He pushed up his glasses. You're supposed to be my bodyguard, after all.
Oh, please.
The chauffeur snorted, rolling up the window.
What could possibly happen at a boring old speech class?
Sometimes foreshadowing is subtle. And we're gonna have to leave it there. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that way more than I thought I would, honestly. Like, when I went into today, I was like, I'm gonna react to... I wasn't sure what I was gonna react to. I'm glad we went into this. Like, it's been a lot of fun so far. Also, she's his wife, if that's anything. Really? Whoa. I did not expect that at all. Interesting. So he has to be connected to the Bliss Ocean. Unless he somehow doesn't know, but not... I don't know. I gotta figure it out. I'm glad you reacted to those prologues. I'm so glad someone finally reacted to those or anything related to the book. I mean, you know, I said that in a previous stream that I wanted to react to everything Epithet. Now, after I discovered that there was so much to react to, so I'm like, I might as well. But yeah. That was great. We're gonna finish it next week. Because, like, Fridays, Saturday, Sunday, no stream. Monday's Minecraft. Tuesday is whatever the people on YouTube have voted for, like the musicals. Wednesdays, I swear, I can never stream on Wednesdays. I don't understand why. No matter what I do, no matter how I try, Wednesdays end up being like nothing. I can't stream in it because I had to go to one emergency or one other thing comes up. It's so strange. And then Thursdays is finishing whatever musical was voted for to react to. And then Fridays are Indie Fridays, where we'll finish this. And then after we finish this, we're probably going to watch Meta Runners. Another show by Glitch Productions. Well, by SMG4. Before it was like Glitch Productions. Well, no, I think it was a Glitch Productions. Whatever, that's not the point. We'll react to that. Anyways. This stream has gone on a tiny bit longer than normal, but who cares? It's fine. I had a good time. I hope you guys had a good time. And I hope you'll subscribe, like, comment, do all those kind of things. Support the original stuff. It's down in the description. Go check them out as well. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. This is the outro song, toot. This is the outro song, toot. This is the outro. Outro. Oh my god, those emojis are big. Outro song. This is the outro song, toot. This is the outro. The emojis are so large it threw off my outro song thing. Bye. 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 I got there in the end. Have a good